It's mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the scariest of them all? It's me, the host. And today we're going to be discussing the true story of the cursed mirror, which comes from our community member. Our community member opens. I work for an antique restoration company that specializes in mirrors. One day we had a large ornate mirror brought in by a young couple. The mirror was very dirty, but even from under the grime, it was obvious that it was an excellent quality piece with an interesting history. It took us about 2 weeks to fully clean it and remove the old brittle backing before we could do anything else. The couple came in to check on its progress, and when they saw how good it looked, they asked us to go ahead and fully restore it. When we were done, it would have been one of the most beautiful pieces we'd ever worked on. They picked the mirror up a week later and seemed very happy with it. A few months after that, the woman called us up and asked if we would come to their house to take a look at the mirror again. She said that strange things were happening around the mirror. Every time someone would walk by it, they would see a horrible, grotesque face staring back at them. They had other antiques in the room, and nowhere else did they see this hideous face. She wanted us to come see it and take it back if we could. Of course, I thought she was joking or trying to screw with us, because we were her only point of contact with the mirror. But I told her I would swing by the next day. When I got there, I asked where the mirror was, and they showed me in the corner of the bedroom. It was leaning against the wall and covered with a sheet. I pulled the sheet off, and sure enough, when I stood back to look at it, there was a horrible, emaciated face peering out. At first I thought it was some sort of new type of funhouse mirror that they had put up without telling me. Then I realized it was looking back at me from behind the glass, and then I started to freak out. Now, my boss didn't really believe in ghosts or curses, but he came with me and was just as skeptical. However, when he walked into the bedroom, the same thing happened. He saw a different, emaciated face staring back at him. We tried everything. We sprayed the mirror with Windex and it did nothing. We tried shining lights on it and it didn't help. It was like the faces were imprinted on the mirror itself. No matter what we did, they still stared back at us. It was terrifying. The couple let us take the mirror back without any questions, and we haven't seen it since. My boss claims that those were demonic entities trapped in the mirror, and it's why it took so long for us to clean it. I think that it is more likely that it was some sort of hallucination brought on by the age of the mirror. What do you think? It's our community member? First, I want to say thank you to our community member for submitting this story. This is the best one yet. You get extra credit for having it happen to you personally. And even though I don't agree with your assessment on the ending, you still captured the anxiety of the situation. And I found myself on the edge of my seat while reading it. You have a real talent for storytelling, and I hope to read more from you in the future. And now, it's time for feedback from the group. First off, I feel like we should discuss the odd placement of the story. Usually I love haunted mirror stories because they allow the author to reflect on themselves through the lens of a metaphor. Not only does this story not do that, but the mirror isn't even in a bathroom. If the story had taken place in a bathroom, I feel like the writing would have flowed better. For example, every morning when he wakes up, he walks into the bathroom to brush his teeth. As he leans over the sink, he sees the reflection of the ghastly creature staring back at him from the mirror. His heart pounds in his chest as he tries to make sense of what he's seeing. Is this real, or is he losing his mind? Whatever it is, it seems to be growing stronger with each passing day. But I guess that doesn't really fit the tone of the story that you're going for, which is fine. Another problem I have with the story is that we never learn anything about the cursed mirror. In stories like these, I always love learning about the history of the cursed item. Where did it come from? How did it become cursed? And who cursed it? Unfortunately, our protagonist doesn't seem interested in any of that. Even when he sees the faces in the mirror, he doesn't try to investigate them. He simply runs away, which is understandable, but it leaves us with a lot of unanswered questions. That being said, the climax of the story is quite strong. Our protagonist sees a horrible, emaciated face peering out at him from behind the glass. And then he realizes it's looking back at him from behind the glass. And then he starts to freak out. This is a great use of foreshadowing because we know from experience that mirrors can show reflections from behind. So when the character realizes that it's looking at him from behind the mirror, we understand just how dire the situation is. This is a classic horror trope that has been used effectively in stories such as The Ring and The Babadook. And you do a great job of building suspense as the character tries to make sense of what he's seeing. However, there are two things that keep this from being a perfect horror story. First, the lack of sensory details. When describing the ghastly face in the mirror, you tell us that it was horrible and emaciated. But we don't get to see it through the senses. We don't hear the sound of its raspy breathing, nor do we feel the cold touch of its decaying skin. By showing us these things, you could have created a more immersive experience for the reader. Second, the resolution is a bit anticlimactic. The story ends with the protagonist running away from the mirror and leaving it behind. I would have liked to see more of a struggle between the protagonist and the mirror. Maybe the mirror follows him home or appears in his dreams. Perhaps the face in the mirror reaches out to him or tries to communicate with him. By adding more conflict, you could have made the story more suspenseful and emotionally resonant. So what do you think? Do you think that the mirror was cursed? Or were the strange faces simply a product of your protagonist's imagination? Let me know in the comments below.
Also,
Please remember to vote for your favorite stories from last week's episode, so that I know which ones to prioritize in the future. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on next week's episode. And as always, thanks for watching.